Hello, welcome to Smash Hit Sports. I'm Cody, that's Nick, and this weekend of college football kind of sucked. Nick, I'm gonna be honest. I wasn't super impressed with the weekend as a whole, but we'll talk about it. Before we get started, make sure to like this video. It's a huge help to the podcast. If you are listening to the audio version, make sure you hit that subscribe button and subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss a thing. But Nick, let's talk about this college football weekend because I'm gonna be honest. I wasn't super impressed. We had two ranked matchups the entire weekend. We had Arizona, Kansas State, which a telling game, but not a great game. And then we had Boston College and Missouri, which happened. Um, but yeah, I wasn't overall. This was kind of a boring weekend of college football.
I don't know. I don't know if I would go that far. I definitely enjoyed myself. I think once it got to 7 o'clock, there was really nothing besides that Georgia Kentucky game that everyone was probably tuned in praying that Kentucky could knock off Georgia. And then Mark Stoops calls the pussiest punt in college football history. And
Yeah,
everyone's just like, God damn it, this sucks. So that part sucked. But I personally thought the LSU game was awesome. Boston College played better than I thought against Missouri.
mm-hmm.
Um, the Arizona State Texas State game was absolutely
That game was sick.
cinematic. Like there were
Yep.
games. Pitt, West Virginia, obviously Eli Holston, is honestly incredible. Clutch gene. I had a good time watching, but it wasn't the games that you would have expected, and we didn't have anything like a Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois. Like if Kentucky had won, I think we'd be saying,
Yeah, totally different story.
what a beautiful weekend of college football, but they didn't, and now we're saying it's boring. I still think it was great, but when you look at the slate we have right now for this week, you understand that, yes, last week probably, in hindsight, will not be talked about much.
Yeah. In my personal college football top 25, I had one team drop out of the top 25 and one team move up into it. And there was some shuffling around within the top 25, but like that, not a ton of motion. I had Arizona fall out and UNLV jump in,
Yeah.
but not like a ton of motion. But yeah, so Thursday we had Kansas State or we had Arizona State and Texas State, which was a phenomenal game, absolutely incredible. And then Friday we had Arizona and Kansas State, and then UNLV and
Oh,
Kansas,
yeah, yeah.
which UNLV, that was a wild game. It felt like they had 14 attempts to convert on like first or second and goal at the end of that game, and they finally got it, but just an unreal game there.
We both
Arizona,
called that
Kansas
one. We
State,
called that one in our game.
yeah, we did. Which shout out to the podcast for both of us picking a 7.5 point dog to win outright and being correct.
Yep.
We do, in fact, know ball. People called us out when we posted our picks.
It is what it is.
Sorry, we know
Yeah,
ball.
we can
I'm not
trust
going to apologize for knowing ball.
exactly.
Um, Speaking of knowing ball,
Yeah.
though, Arizona, Kansas State. I feel pretty vindicated about my Kansas State take. But what were your biggest takeaways from that game? Because that was something where like Avery Johnson looked good. In Arizona, though, like I just their defense can never put them in a good spot. Like that offense was completely revolving around McMillan, and like when he wasn't going, which wasn't often. I mean, the guy had like 12 catches, but they look kind of flat.
Yeah, it obviously we talked about, the panic meter Arizona going into this game, and I, was saying that it was probably the highest of any team. Like I am officially very worried. I picked Arizona, but it was just like a please Arizona because I had you doing so well this year. I'm not surprised after what I saw earlier in the season that this happened, but 31-7 doesn't tell like the whole story. You know what I mean? Like it,
Mhm.
it was a game that it's not like I was like, oh, Arizona lost this game, halfway through the second quarter. I wasn't saying that. Wasn't it was like 7-7, 14-7, something like that. And then there was that punt return where Arizona put that's one of the funniest videos of the weekend. I don't know if you saw it, but on the punt block team for Arizona, one of their like like, fail safe guys
Oh,
was like big 92.
just a yeah,
With
yeah, just a big
guy, like,
fella with long
he's
hair,
just
like all the way down
chugging
to his
trying to catch
back.
Dylan Edwards. It's like, what is he doing on the punt team? So that happened, and like Avery Johnson looks good, but there were some concerning moments from him as well. So I don't know. Overall, I think the Big 12 is just an interesting conference that it's just really hard to get a read on. But I'm officially out on Arizona. I'll say that.
This was for a kind of a bookkeeping note. This was technically not a conference game.
Yeah,
For what it's
true.
worth. So they had this game scheduled prior to Arizona moving into into the Big 12 from the Pac-12. So Arizona Kansas State technically does not count towards conference standings.
Same with
Weird as
Utah
hell.
Baylor, right?
Yes. So weird as hell, but for if you're looking at like conference rankings at the end of this week, something to take note of. A conference game that did matter: LSU, South Carolina. South Carolina had 9 fucking chances to win this game. They had 9 chances to put this game away, and they just could not. They couldn't do it. They could not do it. And I know that like their offense is limited a little bit to like they can't throw the ball well, and that's fine. They ran all over that LSU defense. They were the tougher team. LSU's defense is Charmin ultra soft. They're softer than baby shit. But they just made so many dumb mistakes, and you can't do that. You can't do that. I understand that the penalties were bad. The penalty was that like a unnecessary roughness on that block on Nussmeier? Absolutely not. That is soft as shit. But you can't put yourself in that situation for the ref to even call it. Nussmeier wasn't close to that play. You cannot just blow him off of the face of the earth.
Two things can be true, right? Like
it shouldn't have been a penalty, but you shouldn't have done it either, dumbass. Like, what are we doing?
It sucks because that was the second pick six that was called off too, right? Like, so it's just like probably just frustration from a lot of LSU haters and South Carolina fans, just being like, in how on earth are we not winning this game? It has to be because of the refs, and it was because of the refs because of all the penalties. But like you're saying, it was avoidable, a lot of these things, and you can't blame everything on the refs. Now, I think Lenora Sellers getting hurt, really damaged South Carolina's chances, and just a ton of like bad bounces, dude. Just like I, as a Clemson fan, found myself for split seconds here and there being like, I kind of want South Carolina to win. Like, it was like the unbiased part of my brain was like, they deserve to win this game. And if they don't, it's kind of just an injustice to, football, because it just doesn't feel right. But obviously LSU won. And then I was like, okay, I'm pretty happy about it. But definitely SEC refs in general, not a great weekend.
They were bad across the board. That's for sure. They were bad in pretty much every SEC game. LSU's schedule is very, very manageable. But if they don't toughen up that defense, they are going to get blasted by some of these teams that run the football well. Like, if they put that same run defense on the field against Alabama, they're going to get their fucking doors blown off them. Like, it will be bad. I'm worried. LSU goes into Arkansas, and Arkansas can run the shit out of the football with Jaquindon Jackson and Taylor Green. I'm worried about that game, but we'll see with LSU. That I don't feel good about either of these teams going forward. Like, neither of these teams are like, oh, I feel better now that they have a win. Not really. Georgia looked like shit against Kentucky.
Yeah.
We haven't seen this many drives stopped on Georgia's offense since Athens PD took over. Like, it is truly a ridiculous number but that offense looked like shit. That offensive line looked like shit. Like, it was bad. And Kentucky, they gave up 30 some odd points to South Carolina the week before. And this Georgia offense looked very, very human. And we haven't seen that in a long time. Are you concerned with Georgia? AP poll dropped them to 2.
So, they should have lost that game. Kentucky just pissed down their legs. It pisses me off because Georgia has games like that every year. Like you look at it,
Yep.
their most dominant undefeated seasons, they were playing that bad Missouri team. They were down like 10 late. And I remember I was watching Clemson NC State in the stadium. They kept flashing the score, and we were all like, oh my God, Georgia could lose. Oh my God. Of course they win. Like, it just pisses me off that people like have the opportunity, they get too scared. Now, as far as that's why I think they should have dropped it too. But as far as Georgia and their offense as a whole, I was saying it after the Clemson game. People are going to look at that Clemson game and say Georgia throttled Clemson, but there was a massive difference between the domination that you would really expect to see from Georgia, and then the fact that just Clemson was 3-and-out, 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 incomplete passes, 10 seconds off the clock on offense. Georgia has the ball the entire game. Like, defense is exhausted, that type of thing. You look at the first half in that Clemson game, Georgia's offense looked very human. And Kentucky's defense is good. We talked about it. That's why both of us predicted Kentucky to have a good season. I actually had Kentucky beating Georgia in my SEC preview.
That would have, holy fuck! You could have gone back and clipped.
I was thinking about it the whole game. I was
smartest man alive.
I'm clipping that. But it didn't happen. But it was because of that defense, and they showed out. It was shocking to me that Kentucky looked so bad against South Carolina, and then was able to kind of do a 180. Maybe Brock Vandegrift just had the playbook and, they studied really hard. I don't know. But yeah, I do think that if you take away that second half against a exhausted Clemson defense, Georgia hasn't really done anything to show me that they deserve to be ranked number one,
Yeah. And I don't know. Georgia has one of these games every year, it seems like, and they always bounce back really strong. But I don't know if they don't play in the SEC East anymore, right? Like, divisions are gone in the SEC, and like their schedule is tough. They're going to have to figure some things out. And I don't know if it was some of the off the field stuff but they've had enough of that where I feel like if it would have been a distraction, we would have felt it by now. But the other side of the coin, Stoops, that was the softest fucking call of all time. To punt on your own half of the field late in that game. I don't understand coaches playing not to lose. I understand if you are like, hey, we think we're the better team, and so therefore we're going to play it a little conservative. That's a play that you do if you are the number one team in the country, not when you're trying to upset the number one team in the country. That was it was fucking soft. And you just got your fucking brakes blown off of you by South Carolina the week before. I don't understand how you can sit here and be like, oh, well, we can stop Georgia, prevent them from getting first downs, and then go and try to win the game on another possession. What have you seen from your team ever that makes you think that you could do that? What have you seen from Georgia ever that makes you think that you can do that? I understand that you had played a good game up to that point, but calling that punt there was fucking soft as shit. Yeah. That was soft as shit.
They surrendered the game.
Yeah.
I was texting all my buddies. I was like, oh, so they just waved the white flag. They don't want to win anymore.
It was a moral victory.
It's like, all right, we got close. Okay, it's so stupid. It's like if you're playing the Chiefs in the NFL and Patrick Mahomes is on the other side and you're losing to Patrick Mahomes and you're just going to punt them the ball and be like, yeah, we'll be able to stop them. That never happens. And it's the Chiefs. It's the team. If there was an AP poll in the NFL, the Chiefs would be number one like the whole freaking entire time. So it just bothers me because I feel like in college football, you're like, oh, well, it's different. We can stop them. Our defense has been playing that well. You can't ignore the fact that this is like that would be like the biggest win ever for any team.
They were 22-point underdogs.
Yeah, it'd be the biggest win
22-point
against the number one team in the country. You can't just be like, it's like if it was like 4th and 10 from their 40, I probably would have been saying you should go for it. But if they punted, I would have been like, okay, whatever. But the fact that they were in Georgia territory and it wasn't 4th and 10, it was like 4th and 7. It was like an obtainable You don't have a play you can call. You don't have anything in your back pocket that you feel good about just to get into field goal range. All you need is 10 yards, just one play, one completed pass, and you can win that game. But no. And of course,
Yeah.
2 plays after Georgia got back to where Kentucky punted the ball from. 2 plays later.
The other chicken shit call was when they had gone down the field and then they kicked that field goal. Like it was like 4th and 2 and they were inside their own 20-yard line. Why the fuck are you kicking a field goal against Georgia? That's not going to win you games. I understand. Like you would run the ball down their throat for the full first like portion of that game. And then you're just going to kick a field goal. They let them off the hook twice. And it lost them the game. It is what it is, but I hate when coaches play scared.
I just hate, especially, dude, like against Georgia, they always get away with it. They always have one of these games, and you know, I'm gonna hope and pray that it happens again. It could, but the history says that Georgia is just going to take this, learn from it, and dominate the fuck out of the rest of the season.
Yep, they can't keep getting away with this. Keeping it moving, Texas. Quinn Ewers has an abdominal injury. Not really sure. From initial, you know, what I've seen on Twitter and stuff, it looks like he's going to be coming back in about a week or so. Looking at Texas's schedule, they play Louisiana Monroe this coming weekend, and then they play Mississippi State the following weekend, which is basically Louisiana Monroe. So I don't think that they should be in any hurry to rush Quinn Ewers back. After that game, they have a bye, and then you have the Red River Shootout. So if I was a betting man, I would say Ewers is probably out the next 2 weeks. That gives him basically a whole month to recover prior to your game against Texas in the Cotton Bowl. But I don't think they have anything to worry about because holy fuck, man. Arch Manning looks so good.
Yeah. No,
he looks so
it's
good.
Crazy. It reminded me a little bit of that 2018 Clemson team with Kelly Bryant and then Trevor Lawrence. And people are like, well, Trevor Lawrence is the real deal. Everyone's saying it. Everyone knows it. But Kelly Bryant had just gotten you the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. Kelly Bryant hasn't lost a game yet this year in 2018. You can't really bench him. But the second Trevor Lawrence comes in the game, it's like, oh, he's somehow better. Like you almost have to. Arch Manning, like Quinn Ewers is fantastic. It's a little different because Quinn Ewers is better than Kelly Bryant, obviously. But Arch Manning looks, in my opinion, better. I think he's better. Quinn Ewers had that pick against UTSA early before he got hurt. That was pretty bad. Like this is Arch's first time getting this much playing time, and he just dominated. Jeff Traylor's a pretty good coach as well, obviously. It's not like a pushover team by any means, and he was just lights out. So it reminds me of that. I'm curious to see what Texas does with it. All it really makes me think is I kind of wish they weren't on the same team, you know, because there are a lot of teams out there that could use a great quarterback that would just, again, disperse the talent in the nation. And it just sucks that we might just see Arch Manning go back to a not seeing the field role after showing that he could lead a team to glory right now. But like,
yep. The funniest stat from the whole day is Arch Manning had more rushing yards on that one rushing touchdown than both Eli and Peyton had in their entire college careers combined.
Oh my God.
He had a 67-yard rushing touchdown. That is more than Peyton and Eli had in their college careers combined.
That's crazy. I did not. I mean, obviously those guys aren't mobile at all, but 60 yards combined shouldn't be that hard. Peyton stayed 4 years too. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. But shout out to Arch. We talked about some of the good in college football. Let's talk about the bad. Who gets fired first, Mike Norvell or Billy Napier? Because holy fuck, they are bad.
Yeah, dude. The Florida State, you know, like that rivalry game is going to be. They put that on like PBS. Like no one wants to watch that. That's going to be disgusting.
Comedy Central.
Yeah, whatever.
It's.
I honestly, I mean, Billy Napier still having his job is crazy. So that should be the answer. But like, let's say Florida State loses to Cal, you know, and they're 0-4. Like the pressure I think from Florida State is a lot higher, which could just lead to more revolt from the fan base and just people in general are going to be like, this is unacceptable. Whereas in Florida's case, their win total was so low, like Billy Napier is not going to survive the season, but they might as well just keep Billy Napier
Yep.
for like 8 weeks and then be like, whatever, we'll give another coach a trial run at the end of the year.
Florida State is the first win total in college football that is already decided.
Yeah.
Their win total was 9.5.
Yeah, it's impossible to get there. They can only win 9, which is crazy.
Yeah.
3 weeks into the season. It's probably the fastest you can ever really get there, unless it's like a 10.5 win, but it's just not.
Or like Vanderbilt had a 2.5 win total. You win your first 3.
Yeah. But like in 2 weeks,
legitimate.
You can't even get there.
Yeah. It's legitimately insane. And then their schedule, like they play Cal. That's not a walk in the park. They are 3-0. Like
it's like a 2-point spread.
They just went into Jordan. They just went into Jordan Hare and beat Auburn. You think they're scared to go into Tallahassee and beat Florida State? I don't think so.
Especially with the Florida State's not improving anything. Like everything we've seen, like, oh, you can't defend the run, you can't run, and you have a bad quarterback. Nothing is fixable.
And the thing too is like there's not a single redeeming quality of this Florida State team. Like I thought that their defense was going to be elite. It's fucking terrible. They have 2 first-round talents at defensive end, and both of those guys look like absolute shit. Like they got the ball ran down their throats the first 2 weeks, and then Memphis threw the ball all over the yard. I thought Memphis didn't look great in that game. Like there were points where I wanted to see more out of Memphis from their offense, and yet that game was never in doubt. Memphis controlled it the whole way. They had the punt return where the 2 guys ran into each other, and then they muffed the punt, and Memphis recovered on their own side of the field at the end of the first half, so that way Memphis could score again before the half was over. It is the most like slapdick comedy football team I've ever seen. It's so bad. And their schedule, like they play Cal, they play Clemson, they play Miami. Like they could lose those 3 games. They play North Carolina, they could lose that game. They play Notre Dame at Notre Dame. Notre Dame could beat the piss out of
What's the new win total, would you say, for Florida State?
4?
4.5?
Like it's 4. You have, in my mind, game like SMU has not played well. They have not looked good. That is a team that I was very wrong on. They look like shit.
They can still beat Florida State, I think, but yeah.
That game's at SMU. You have Duke at Duke,
Could
which
lose.
They look like shit, but
Could
hey, Charleston Southern is absolutely a win. And then you get Florida.
Yeah. No, they could really be like 2-10 or something. Like
it's
repulsive. I mean,
legitimately insane.
I'm going to be rooting for 0-12. Just like, can you imagine an 0-12 Florida State after 12-0? Like,
if they go to like 0-10, that game against Charleston Southern is going to be insane.
Oh my
like I would be so dialed in. I would be so dialed in.
Oh,
I cannot believe I picked this team to make the college football playoff. I feel fucking disgusted with myself.
I warned you. I didn't have Florida State being this bad, but I think I had them at 8-4. I mean, that was just because DJU though. I did not expect their ability to defend the run and run the ball. I mean, they have zero control of the trenches, which is like the most important part of football. So they could be really bad. We'll talk about that.
And then Florida made a Texas A&M team look really good, and that Texas A&M team is not good. First off, why the fuck are they back in the top 25?
I don't think Texas A&M is really that bad. I think they're a little above average, and that's all. Like I was a little too high on them, but 25th best team in the country. I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and they absolutely dog walked Florida. Indiana. I was very high on the Hoosiers coming into this year. I called them 8 Windiana, 9 Windiana, and a lot of people called me crazy. Nick, you were a little hesitant on the Hoosiers in our Big Ten preview, but we're now sitting here. They have put up 31, 77, and 42 in their first 3 games. They've allowed 7, 3, and 13. They just mollywopped UCLA, absolutely ran the floor with them. Now this Indiana team, which is 3-0, they play Charlotte this weekend. Then they get Maryland at home, and then Northwestern. I think there's a reasonable area or like a reasonable reality where 6-0 Indiana is playing Nebraska at home, and that is like a really big game.
Yeah.
And Nebraska plays Illinois, Purdue, and Rutgers prior to that. There's a chance that we could see 2 6-0 teams between Indiana and Nebraska playing, and it having like very significant repercussions, which is hilarious.
That it's very interesting because I was about to say to you, like, oh, we're going to victory lap Indiana after they beat UCLA, who is awful.
Awful. They're dog shit.
but you are right in a sense that, you know, the win margins, the covering of the spreads are impressive. And you look at the schedule now after we've seen some of this play out. I mean, they're going to be Charlotte. Maryland at home could be a win. Northwestern doesn't look, you know, as good as they did last year. That could be a win. And then if you're 6-0, what does that do to you? What does that do confidence-wise? Could they beat Nebraska at home? Maybe. Michigan doesn't look good. They beat Michigan.
You're playing Washington. Washington just lost to Washington State.
Purdue at the end of the season should be a win because they look terrible. Like the only 2 games, and I mean Michigan State, the jury's still out a little bit in my opinion, but Michigan State and Ohio State are the only 2 games where it's like I would probably like absolutely pick against them. But that'd be crazy to see like a 10-2 Indiana team. Be crazy.
Yeah, it'd be
that happens,
absolutely
victory
insane.
lap is all. That's all yours. You have that.
Oh yeah, but I think more than anything, Kurt Cignetti's the real.
Yeah, and they're going to make a bowl. I'll say that much. From what I've seen, they're going to make a bowl, which is I don't know if I had them doing that.
Yep. You put the Notre Dame game on here to talk about. I'm going to be honest. Good. We should have beaten the piss out of Purdue. I said Purdue was the worst team in the Power 5 coming into this year. I still stand by that. Riley Leonard is the first player since Lamar Jackson to have 100 yards passing, 100 yards rushing, and 3 rushing touchdowns in the first half of a football game. So that's cool.
Cade had one of those stats, like the first since Lamar. There's always everything's like first since Lamar. I mean, that Lamar season was just unbelievable, but I mean, really, to me, it's just crazy because that spread was like 9, and then it moved down and down and down.
It got all the way down to 7.
Yeah, like right before the game, it was 7. I was thinking like this feels like a goddamn trap, and I ended up taking Notre Dame because I was like, this in no world can I be convinced that Purdue can win this game. But what a crazy line, and it almost makes me think that if Vegas thinks that you're going to be in a close game with Purdue and you beat them by 52, something changed. Something like the worries that I would have after losing to Northern Illinois would probably be gone, regardless if you think you should have won by 50 or not. It's just the fact that like clearly something was figured out. Now, I will say, I don't know if you saw the Northern Illinois coach reached out to Marcus Freeman and was like, I want to help you. I want to show you what I saw on film that was so beatable so that you can get better. And I think that's a smart play from the Northern Illinois coach because the more Notre Dame wins, the better it looks for Northern Illinois. And I mean, I think that there probably is some weight to that. I think that Marcus Freeman was like, oh, holy shit, we need to fix this. Let's say it's fixed. I don't know what it was. But we could see a Notre Dame team that looks like pre-Northern Illinois what they were expected to be, and they could still make the playoff.
Yeah, as a Notre Dame fan, it does make me feel a lot better. But we'll see. My biggest coming out of that game, we did have another offensive lineman. It looks like he's done for the season, our right guard now. So we are down our left tackle for the season and our right guard for the entire season. Notre Dame was not deep on the offensive line headed into this year, so that does give me a little bit of concern.
Fair.
But yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Before we get into the winners, losers, and dogs of the week, Home Field, they make the best college apparel. They just released these corduroy hats that look absolutely outstanding. But you can use code NICK15 for 15% off your first purchase at Home Field. The link is in the description of this video or in our bios if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast. But Nick, Winners of the week. Who is your winner of the week?
My winner of the week, I feel like I kind of want to go bolder and less obvious and maybe say Utah, just because we were texting about it, saying like, my God, they look really bad without Cam Rising. How is this happening again? We're gonna have this, like, is he gonna play? Is he not? He's probably not. Their backup quarterback's not gonna be able to get the job done, and it's just gonna be another wash season with high expectations because of injury. Yet, Zach Wilson's younger brother, as the game progressed, started to look actually like really good, which was really surprising, considering how it started. So it has me to a point where I'm like, I think even if Cam Rising has this whole freaking nonsensical year again and he comes back for a ninth year, blah, 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 I think given the state of the Big 12 and what I've seen from the Big 12, Utah could, I feel really good about them making the playoffs still. Like, and they're going into Oklahoma State. Cam Rising doesn't play. I still think that that's a game that they could win. So, and even if they don't, it's one loss on the road. Like, if I'm a Utah fan, the worry I felt in the beginning of the game and with everything, all of that is relieved in my opinion, and I'm feeling pretty confident. So that's like a bolder winner of the week. Obviously, there are some bigger winners, but I kind of wanted to shout out little Wilson.
That's fair. My winner of the week is the Oregon Ducks. They looked like they looked like trash the first two games. Did not look good. Boise State played them well. Idaho played them well. And then you have to go into Corvallis and you have to play Oregon State in the Civil War after you left them for a new conference, and they were going to come in all pissed off. And you put a stop to that real quick. That was never a game. It was never in doubt. Your preseason frontrunner Heisman candidate quarterback looked exactly like that. Dylan Gabriel looked outstanding. That offense finally clicked. The defense looked like they were supposed to look. The panic button has been fully put away for the Oregon Ducks. So in my mind, they are the winners of the week. My loser of the week, and I don't know how to put this eloquently without it's 3-2-1 Knowles. It's 3-2-1 Knowles. You have to eat the dog shit, dude. Yeah. You have to eat the dog shit. This is on you. Until Florida State fan who promised to eat dog shit if they lost to Boston College, until he eats the dog shit, I can't see Florida State winning another game. So 3-2-1 Knowles, you are the loser of the week. Eat the dog shit.
That's so funny to me because like if I were in his shoes, like I'm not eating dog shit ever, obviously. So, but like it's also true that he probably has cursed his team. He has cursed them.
Yeah.
The lesson learned: don't tweet shit like that if you're not going to do it. But in reality, I would probably recommend don't eat it to him. If I'm like taking myself away from the curse and I don't give a fuck about Florida State, I'd actually like to see them lose. Don't eat it just for health reasons. Don't eat the dog shit, I would say. My loser of the week, well, and we talked about it already, but when I wrote this down, it was obvious to me. It's got to be Mark Stoops for that punt. I mean, just the word loser and what it means, the dictionary definition, that is the exact decision of that was that he decided he wanted to lose the game against the number one team. He said, I don't care anymore. Georgia, you can have this one. We tried really hard. We got really close, but I'd actually rather lose. And he punted the ball. It's the most pussy shit I've ever seen. He's the loser of the week in every sense of the word. He is for me.
All right, Nick, who is your dog of the week?
Yeah, dog of the week's Eli Holston. My days, this guy is legit. He was like one of those guys at Bama last year where it was like, is it Eli? Is it Milroe? We don't know. And like Eli had a start and it didn't look great, right? Am I right about that?
No,
did they redshirt him?
I don't think he.
Or am I like?
I don't know if they played him at all because he was a true freshman last year. So he's a redshirt freshman this year. I think because they played Buckner. I don't know if he got any time in that USF game. I'm not sure if
I don't know. I remember Nick Saban saying like we're gonna. Like we don't know who the quarterback is yet, and it ended up being Milroe, obviously. But regardless, I did not expect this from Eli Holstein. He last week against who were they? Cincinnati. Um,
Yeah.
just turned on the clutch gene and led Pitt to a come from behind victory. And then against West Virginia with 4 minutes left, down 10, I mean, he's standing in the pocket. There is pressure all around him. That's the most impressive thing to me is that, like, normally in college, especially for a freshman, you would see the happy feet, the bouncing around, kind of like, oh, I'm nervous. I'm going to get sacked. I don't want to get hit. Off balance throws, not making plays. Holstein was as calm and collected as you would expect a 28-year-old NFL vet to be, getting bull rushed, bulldozed, standing in the pocket, throwing darts, coming from behind, 2 touchdowns in 4 minutes to beat your arch rival in West Virginia in the backyard brawl. Like him on the sideline getting fired up, his helmet comes off, he's just screaming. Like it fired me up so much that he is a dog, and it's almost changed my mind on the ACC as a whole, Cody, because now I'm thinking like this guy is up there with all the other quarterbacks in the world right now as far as just being able to win games. He has it. He has everything you would want. I'm very impressed. Dog.
In his first 3 collegiate starts, he has 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns in each of his 3 collegiate starts. Yeah. And that is against Kent State, stinks. On the road against Cincinnati, a conference opponent, or not a conference opponent, sorry, but a power conference team, and then at home against your rival in the backyard brawl. I mean, that it does not get any more dog than that. Yeah. That is dog behavior. My dog of the week, in an unbelievable come from behind victory, Central Florida looked so legit. They looked so good. And RJ Harvey, god damn, did you put the team on your back. 29 carries, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 29-yard receiving touchdown. This man had 200 total yards of offense and 3 touchdowns in a come from behind road win against a conference opponent. What that is the most dog mentality that you could possibly have. He said, fuck you, pay me. I'm going to do it. 30 touches, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. A dog.
Yeah,
I
saw the score of that game late. I didn't watch any of it, but I honestly didn't even know that UCF won that game. I think they were losing in a close one when I checked the score, but that is pretty crazy that they won against TCU. So,
yeah,
watch out.
They came all the way back.
Watch out.
All UCF. The way back. Yeah, I want to say, they outscored TCU 15-3 in the fourth quarter, came back and won.
That's crazy.
I mean, that was sick.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get into, we're going to do a little buying and selling, a little stock talk, and then a Heisman Trophy draft. Before we get into that, the betting guide we've been cooking. The bets have been hitting, and all of my information comes from that betting guide. It's in the link in my bio. It's $20. I can send that link to you if you want, but it is truly one of the best betting resources, and it will be useful to you all year long because it is chock full of stats and information. So go check that out. $20. I truly think it's the best deal in sports betting, in the link in my bio or in the link in the description of this video. Now, let's get into some buying and selling of teams. I have a couple teams that we had some opinions on them at the start of the year, and I want to know if you are hopping on the train and you are buying stock in them, or if you are getting off the train and selling while they're high. Mm-hmm. So let's start with
shorting. Yeah.
Let's start with the Tennessee Volunteers.
Okay.
They're 3-0. They look as good as any team in college football.
Buying.
Do you think that they are that legit?
Yeah, I'm buying. I wonder what their stock would be priced at right now, because it's probably just record-settingly high, because I mean they were up 65-0 at half, Cody. That is insane. I thought the Clemson App State halftime score was like, I made a video about it. I was like, I've never seen a team put up 525 yards in the first half. That's insane. And Tennessee put up 550. A week later, and that what I don't know is a record, but might have been like a modern record, has been broken. it's just they went like onside kick, obviously, but yeah, I'm buying stock on Tennessee. They clearly everything is working tremendously well. I don't expect that to change. It almost feels like the New Orleans Saints in the sense that the way I feel about the Saints right now is like you can't sell that stock. Like everything is working too well for you to be like, oh, this is fluky. That it'll get figured out. Like no, they have it and will continue to have it. Tennessee's kind of like that, so definitely buying that stock. I like them. Maybe even SEC champion level. Like I mean, it's they're up there. I wasn't saying that before, but who says no, right?
Yep. UNLV 3-0, 2 wins against power conference opponents. They have a win against Houston and now a win against Kansas. Are you buying? Are you selling? How do you feel about this UNLV team?
Well, I'm going to buy that stock as well. You know, and my main reason is because the 12 seed in the college football playoff, there aren't that many teams that I think are competing for it right now. I think Memphis obviously is, but like in reality, UNLV is on a trajectory to get that spot more than almost any other team in the group of 5. So I think they are capable of doing it. Obviously, there's Boise State in that conference. There are a couple good teams. But I'm going to buy that stock because if I buy it and they make the playoff, you know, anything can happen. So
that's fair. Last team, are you buying or selling the Louisville Cardinals? We haven't talked much about them. They've just been quietly sitting in that middle of the top 25.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't done anything crazy, good or bad. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about Louisville so far?
I'm selling Louisville. I'm going to sell them. Now, I do think they have enough talent to, you know, be in and out of the top 25 in my opinion, but I think from what, like, to me, just how their season opened, like they're ranked 19th, but what I've seen from them and what I've seen from a team like Pitt or like other teams that aren't ranked in the ACC, I don't think it's that different. I think Louisville is going to have more trouble against some of these ACC teams that maybe people that aren't following as much are assuming are worse than Louisville because Louisville's ranked 19th. I don't think that's the case. I think talent-wise and ability-wise and just everything, Louisville's going to be just kind of in that pack below the favorites, I guess. You could argue Boston College and Louisville are right there together. They have a tough game against Georgia Tech. We'll have to see. No spoilers, but you know, we'll get to that game, my prediction later. But I'm going to sell that one.
Yep. Fair. All right, let's do Heisman Trophy draft. We're just going to pick our top, or we're going to go from 3 to 1 and just kind of rank where we have our Heisman Trophy standings right now. And I'll start with my 3. I know that he hasn't played exceptionally well the first 2 weeks, but I still think he is that dude. My 3rd is Dylan Gabriel. I still feel pretty confident in him, and we haven't seen him play, you know, in a lot of big spots yet. And I think as Oregon, you know, gets those primetime games, I think he's going to ball out. So my 3, I'm taking Dylan Gabriel.
Okay, I don't hate that. My 3 is Ashton Genty. And would I like him to be higher on that list? Yes, because he could put up just insane numbers this year. But Boise State, if they don't like make the playoff or they aren't ranked at the end of the year, it's just hard. Not a quarterback, like it's just hard to rationalize Heisman unless the numbers are that good. And the numbers could be that good, so he's on my list, but not willing to put him 2 or 1 quite yet.
Yep. So I have Ashton Genty at 2. All the things that you said, the guy has 9 touchdowns in 2 games. It doesn't get much better than that. The dude is an absolute stud. Who is your number 2?
My number 2 is Nico Iamaleava. I'm still trying to learn how to pronounce his last name. I always thought it was Lamaleva or Yamaleva. What do you know? What is it like?
I think it's Iamaleava.
Iamaleava.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wasn't really even that close. That's whatever. To me, I think we talked about this last episode where I was like, I don't know. It was against NC State where, you know, he looked great, but like NC State has just really underwhelmed aggressively. And then obviously, who cares about like Kent State? I think they were just playing. Who cares about that either? But eye test. I watched enough of that game to be like, yeah, this kid's got it. Um, and we were just saying, like, I'm buying the stock on Tennessee. They could freaking run the table or do something crazy, and then in that sense, you're going to give it to the quarterback. So give me Nico.
All right, I'm excited to see who your number one is because I think we may have the same one here, but my number one right now is Cam Ward.
Interesting.
He has been so damn good. He has 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, one interception, a 94.4 QBR. That 1,000 yards, yeah, that's just passing. That doesn't include any of the work that he's done with his legs. He didn't rush the ball at all against Ball State, didn't need to. But he has 40 rushing yards this year as well, and another rushing touchdown to add on to that. Cam Ward has looked infallible. He's looked outstanding. So my number one right now in my Heisman ranking, give me Cam Ward.
Yeah, and that's not my number one, actually.
Ooh.
My number one is Jackson Dart. Now,
Okay.
I wanted to put Cam Ward in there. My setback on Cam Ward, like he started the season really, really well last year with Washington State, and it just turned out that things got a lot harder. And I think with Miami, that could be the case where things just get a lot harder. And with Jackson Dart, I think I just trust it more. I trust being in that Lane Kiffin system more. I mean, he underratedly, I think week one had like 450 yards, 6 touchdowns in the first half against whoever they were playing. Like he has 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. Similar passer rating. I think in the college passer rating or college QBR is like 222 right now for Jackson Dart. Mm-hmm. He's done nothing to not be in the conversation. It's just a matter of projecting the end of the season, in my opinion, a little bit. So no disrespect to Cam Ward. I just think that I would predict Jackson Dart to win over him when all is said.
That's totally fair because both of those dudes have played absolutely insane. Yeah. Insane. All right. Before we get to the week 4 preview, if you guys are going to any of the games this weekend or any of the coming weekends, make sure that you use promo code SmashHitSports on SeatGeek to get $20 off your first purchase. I just made good on my bet to Nick from last year and bought him tickets to the Stanford at Clemson game on September 28th. So Nick is going to that game courtesy of me and SeatGeek. But I got my $20 off. I made a new email. Don't hate me. But I got my $20 off using promo code SmashHitsSports. So go see a game and take advantage of that deal. So, all right, Nick, game previews. We have one game Friday that I think is really interesting. Syracuse Stanford also plays on Friday, which is a conference game, but most of the slate is on Saturday this weekend. A lot of good. I think there's a lot more meat on the bone this weekend than there is last weekend. You have several ranked matchups, but also several matchups that mean a lot in terms of conference play now. And a lot of these teams are in the conference for the first time. USC, Michigan, that's a first Big Ten game for USC. We have Utah, Oklahoma State, the first true conference game for Utah. And then you have Tennessee, Oklahoma, the first SEC game for Oklahoma. I am very, very excited for this college football slate. I think it's absolutely, and there are some really good underrated games on here as well, but it starts Friday. 24 Illinois headed into Lincoln, Nebraska to play number 22 Nebraska. Nebraska is an 8.5-point favorite. This is a night game. Lincoln gets 2 night games in back-to-back weekends. What are your thoughts? Or, well, not back-to-back weekends. I guess they had a weekend off. But between Colorado and now, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah. If we had Illinois in the buy or sell, I think I would be a seller. And kind of for that reason alone, you see an 8.5-point spread. Nebraska's at home. Based on AP poll ranking, you would assume this is going to be a close game. I don't really see that, man. I think Nebraska is definitely better than Illinois. So I feel just pretty confident about taking Nebraska here.
Yeah, I like Nebraska to win, and I'm going to pick them as well. But I do think the 8.5 spread is kind of large. I think this game could be a close. Illinois loves to play teams just gross and under and whatever. So I think this game could be close. I would take Illinois against the spread, but I'm taking Nebraska to win it. Keeping it moving, we have NC State at Clemson. This spread is 19.5.
Yeah, which is crazy.
That's wild to me. I understand that NC State has not looked great through 3 games, and Grayson McCall is hurt. So that is a big reason for this line.
Even if it was,
is it too big though? Is
so,
it too big? 19.5 is a lot of points.
So I remember Oregon was like minus 19.5 against Boise State. And in my head, I was thinking, well, there's a reason it's that big. And that's because, obviously Oregon's going to beat Boise. Like Vegas knows something. And Oregon should have lost. Like that was a really close game. So my gut is telling me like, well, Clemson's favored by that much because, again, Vegas knows something. NC State is as bad as they've looked. Clemson has figured something out, blah, blah, blah. But I'm weary because, I can't just put all my trust in Vegas being right every single time, obviously. So I will not be touching the spread, but because the spread's that high, I do feel pretty damn good about us winning that game. But it might be, we'll see. My faith isn't completely restored in Clemson's ability to not look super anemic offensively. But if it looks like what it looked like against App State, then I think we probably crush them.
Yeah, this it's really weird because the spread is 19.5, but the total is 48.5, which means they expect NC State to score in the teens, which I could absolutely see that. So I'm taking Clemson, but this could be a weird game.
Yeah, what is that?
Like this could be a really weird
It's game. Like 15-34 or like some like weird score. So yeah, interesting. Yeah. But I guess without Grayson McCall, wouldn't surprise me that much if NC State just really struggled to put up points. Like I'm getting to 20. I don't know, man. I kind of like it. So we'll see.
That's
noon game.
Kansas at West Virginia. This game is are you really dog shit? Are you really dog shit? Because both of these teams are now 1-2. Kansas has losses to Illinois and UNLV. West Virginia now has losses to Pitt and Penn State. Are you bad, or did you just get a tough luck of the draw? And I think we get to find out, because if you start out 1-3, that is detrimental to your season. And truly, it just gives me no faith in you as a top 25 team. This game's in Morgantown. Is Neil Brown? Did Neil Brown just get hot last year?
He might have. Because I think he might have. Same thing.
I'm taking Kansas, dude. There's no way. Like,
I'm also taking Kansas. My reasoning is not like a confidence thing, and I'm guessing you're not very confident in it either. But
no,
I think people are going to see Kansas losing to UNLV and react to that differently, more negatively than people seeing West Virginia up 10 against Pitt and then kind of blowing a lead on the road. Mm-hmm. So I feel like a lot of people are going to be on West Virginia. And that's just a spot I like, maybe fading the public a little bit there, taking Kansas, because Kansas, West Virginia, before the season started, I would have said I like Kansas talent-wise more. I like, quarterback play, coaching play, like everything more. And UNLV is a better team than a lot of people probably realize. So I like Kansas in this spot, but obviously it's on the road. Anything could happen.
Yep. I'm taking Kansas as well. USC at Michigan. 11 USC, 18 Michigan. USC has to come into the big house.
Yeah.
Explain to me why this spread is 5.5. Explain it to me like I'm a fucking kindergartner, Nick. Because I don't
think it should be like 10, 14, something like that?
Yeah. I think it should be 10.5.
Yeah, I mean, the reasoning's got to just be USC going into Michigan. It's something we talked about in the preseason. Michigan obviously hasn't looked good. They barely beat Arkansas State through 3 interceptions. Like things are bad in Michigan. But I was saying
they did announce that Alex Orji is going to be the starter.
Yeah, which is
so for what it's worth.
But it's USC, traveling up. It's like you're welcome to the Big Ten moment, perhaps. Like anything goes. Like I don't hate that spread. It is a little trappy to all the people that are probably going to be like, ew, gross, giving USC. I still like USC, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a kind of ugly ground and pounder. We'll have to see, but there's no way I can pick Michigan here. There's no way my faith in that team leads me. Like I won't do it. So USC.
Yeah. I cannot in good faith pick Michigan here either. At the end of the day, I have to pick between Miller Moss, who's looked outstanding, and Alex Orji, who has not looked even acceptable as a college football quarterback. I can't do it. And USC's defense shut out Utah State, and then they held LSU to 20 points. And I can tell you right now, LSU is a hell of a lot better offense than Michigan. I just don't see, unless they turn Miller Moss over multiple times, I just don't see a world in which Michigan wins this football game.
I agree.
So give me USC. Georgia Tech at Louisville. This game is weird. Louisville's a 10-point favorite. This game's at Louisville. Georgia Tech has looked good, but they've also been They lost to who did Georgia Tech lose to?
Syracuse.
Yes. So Georgia Tech lost to Syracuse, which I like Syracuse. I think Syracuse is pretty solid, but do we feel how do we feel? Because Louisville hasn't played anybody. They haven't played anybody. They played Austin PA and somebody else.
Exactly.
Jacksonville State. So do we think Georgia Tech is real?
So there are two sides to the coin here, because on one side you look at Georgia Tech's win against Florida State that got them ranked, right? It was like, oh my God, they beat Florida State. That's crazy. Like, what a good team this Georgia Tech team is. And now it's like, oh, everyone's beaten Florida State. No longer that impressive. But the other side is that I was saying about Louisville, I think that the conglomerate of that above average crop of ACC teams are just like, it's an any given Sunday thing. They're really, really similar to me. So 10 points is a little high, I think, in my opinion. I think that Louisville is more similar to Georgia Tech in a negative way than it is Georgia Tech being like this really good team that can go in and win on the road. I just think it's going to be a close game, and I'm going to take Georgia Tech here. And I said, like, I got to take more risks, and it kind of paid off last week with some of these like +8, +9 underdogs that are winning. So I think this could be another spot for that.
Yeah. For the record, I am 25-7 on the season in our picks. I went 8-4 last week. Nick is 21-10 on the season, went 9-3 last week. We know ball.
Yeah.
We know ball knowers. That being said, I'm taking Louisville here. I like Jeff Brom. I trust Jeff Brom as a coach at home. Louisville has been pretty good at home under Jeff Brom. So I'm going to roll with that. But like Georgia, I think Georgia Tech covers the spread. 10 points is a lot. 10 points is a lot. Rutgers at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech had that dog shit loss to Vanderbilt, who lost to Georgia State. Terrible. But since then, they've quietly gone about their business. They beat Marshall. They beat Old Dominion. Now you get Rutgers. And this Rutgers team is not, they're not going to pretend to do anything fancy. They're going to show up, they're going to punch you right in the face, and they're going to keep punching you in the face until you give up. Does Virginia Tech have the fight in them to not give up? Because that is the question. They're going to run Kyle Monangai down your fucking throat. And are the Hokies tough enough defensively to stop that? I like to think that they are.
Yeah,
I'm taking Virginia Tech, but this game truly, I could see go either way at all. I could see immediately going either way. I'm not giving up on Virginia Tech yet. So give me the Hokies in this one. But I feel this is probably, out of all the picks on the slate, the least confident that I feel.
Yeah, I was just about to maybe change my pick, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going Rutgers. The reason why I was about to change it is just like, again, stuff we were talking about before the season started. This is kind of like that first big spot for Virginia Tech to host Lane Stadium. Pretty solid team you're playing. And I think that just the energy was expected to be really exciting. But I know some Virginia Tech fans, people, like, they're not even watching the games anymore. They lost to Vanderbilt. They're like, there's no point. This season's going to be a bust again. So I just don't think that energy is going to be there really enough. I think that there's a negative vibe around that team where it's like, yeah, we aren't going to win this game. So I'm going to take Rutgers. But yeah, obviously it's hesitantly.
Yeah. If Rutgers wins this game, they get Washington coming to Piscataway, New Jersey on a Friday night. And they could be a quiet 4-0 headed into Nebraska, which would be fun. Mm-hmm. So shout out the Big Ten, putting some fun football games out there. All right, huge game for the Big 12. The Utah Utes, who are the preseason favorite to win the Big 12, going in to Stillwater to try to beat Oklahoma State. This game is a 1.5 point line. Oklahoma State is the underdog. If you ask me today on what I pick in this game, it might be different than what I think tomorrow, which might be different than what I think Friday, which might be, what I think differently on kickoff. I have no idea who I want to pick.
This to me is the hardest one. Like, the least confident I am. It's pretty much a coin flip in my brain. You could, like, I would just be like, oh, make a pick for me, and I'd just be like, okay, that's what I got. Like, that's my team now. I don't know. Again, I said, I'm impressed with Utah. Let's say Cam Rising doesn't play. I still think Utah could absolutely win this game. If Cam Rising does play, like, Oklahoma State's one of those teams. It's so weird because they look bad against Arkansas and escape, and then they're firing on all cylinders, crushing the spread against whoever they played last week. I mean, they destroyed it. So it just is so strange. But I think I'm going to go Oklahoma State, and my reasoning is welcome. Like, you're welcome to a road top 15 Big 12 game. It's just a new conference, that type of thing. I can see Oklahoma State just kind of being like, hey, it's just, you had to lose this one. It's your acceptance fee. So I don't know. I'm going Oklahoma State.
I'm going with Oklahoma State as well. I like Utah long term, but if Cam Rising is not playing in this game, I just don't trust the Wilson enough to get the job done. And say what you will, Utah made a living in the Pac-12 on beating the piss out of teams that were either not well coached or not tough. Oklahoma State is both well coached and tough. So you're going to have to win the game a different way. And I don't know if they do. So especially if Cam Rising doesn't play, I am firing a nuclear missile on Oklahoma State. So give me the Cowboys. But
yeah,
again, I could flip 100 different times. Cal at Florida State. Gross.
Yeah, we have
to
talk about this game. Needed one more. We do 12 games. There are 11 really fun ones to cover, and that 12th option, not great. So I say, why not throw this in there so that I can pick Cal and just keep picking against Florida State until they get relegated to the Big South. That's
I'm excited for the meme to come out where it's like, if you bet $100 on Florida State to lose every weekend, the first 4 weekends of the year, and kept doubling down, you would make $100,000 or whatever it's going to be. I'll do the math on that and I will get it ready because I'm also picking Cal. I just, for the memes, for the culture, but culture, Florida State doesn't have a culture right now. It's bad. It's gross. It's disgusting. Miami at South Florida. In my preseason schedule, I picked South Florida to win this game. And I am going to pick South Florida to win this game.
Whoa.
I think this is easily the best team that Miami has played all year. I do not think that it was a fluke that South Florida took Alabama within a 1-point game well into the fourth quarter of that game. You now have to go into South Florida, which, don't get me wrong, they play at Raymond James Stadium, so it's not like some sort of elite college football environment, but it is on the road. And I do think that this South Florida team and Alex Golesh is damn good. I think he is one of the best young coaches in the sport. I'm taking South Florida. I think we have one game a year where you just look at Mario Cristobal and you go, what the fuck are you
Mm-hmm.
doing? And this is that
Mm-hmm.
game. So give me South Florida money line as a 17-point
You know
underdog.
what? I don't hate it. I'm not willing to pick it. I'm not willing to do it. I went into today, I was looking at the games we were going to cover, and I was like, I bet you money Cody picks South Florida. So I'm
Yep.
I'm unwilling, but this I love the South Florida spread. I absolutely love it. This is a massive game in my head, my own personal headspace, because again, I've been saying like, well, Miami against Florida. Florida was trying to lose that game. Like, I don't care how they looked. I don't care how they looked against, whoever they were playing, Ball State, whatever it was.
Yeah, Ball State.
I don't care. I do care about how they look. Finally, I get to see a game against a team that is really good, right? Like South Florida is very, very legit, and this spread, if Miami wins by 10, then I'm like, okay, Miami's still really good, and I'll believe in them. But like South Florida's just a really good team. People were doubting on them. If Miami loses, I think I have my concerns about Miami, and they've been realized. And if Miami destroys a 17-point spread against this good South Florida team, then they are officially extremely legit. I would re-put them in as my ACC favorite, regardless of what Clemson does against NC State. If Miami destroys this spread, they win by 30 or more, then I'm buying as much stock as I can. So it's very important for my headspace. I'm going to be picking Miami regardless, though.
Yep. Tennessee at Oklahoma, another ranked matchup. This, in my mind, is such a huge game because Tennessee, they played NC State, but like, how real were they? If Tennessee wants to get back to being at the top of college football, you win this game because you have to go into Oklahoma and win in a tough environment. And this isn't like, I understand that it's hard to win on the road in the SEC, but this isn't like a place that you are used to playing if you're Florida, right? Like, it's not like you're going into Georgia like you do every other year or into Florida like you do every other year. You have to go into Norman. And I think it's going to be a really tough game. This game is a 7.5-point spread, but I'm taking the Vols. Give me Tennessee. They have looked borderline unstoppable, and until proven otherwise, I'm going to continue to bet on the Volunteers.
Yeah, I'm taking Tennessee. I'm obviously, like, if I take out everything I've seen so far, then I'd be so tempted to take Oklahoma, because I do, going into the season, I liked that Oklahoma team defensively. They have looked really good. My problem is Jackson Arnold's a boneheaded bozo. I've seen enough. I've made my opinion. I do not like him anymore. I am selling Jackson Arnold stock. I think, this we'll get to see what Tennessee's defense is all about, but I think a lot of people are going to say shootout here. I actually kind of like the under. I'm not going to lie.
Ooh.
And I'm guessing I'm going to be very fade the public in that sense. And I like Tennessee, man. I just don't think Arnold has that. I don't think he has it. Not as much as you would need to have it to win against this Tennessee team that looks so good. So good. So give me Tennessee.
Yep. All right. Michigan State at Boston College. Boston College is a 6.5-point favorite. And am I crazy for liking Michigan State, Nick?
This is I don't think you're crazy, but Boston College, we were saying, was like, oh, shouldn't be ranked, mid-tier ACC team playing Missouri. They're going to get stomped on the same way that NC State got stomped on by Tennessee. We both said that last week. Mm-hmm. And Boston College covered the spread with ease. They had a 6-point game. Like, they never really looked like they were going to win it. But that's a 1 touchdown difference against a top 10 team in Missouri. Now you get to play at home against Michigan State, who, again, jury's out for me. I like Boston College a lot here, and I don't think the spread's crazy. I kind of like them by a touchdown.
That's fair. I'm going to pick Boston College here as well, but I don't love it. I don't love it. I'm still not convinced, Boston College, but their fans also hate me in the comments for some reason. A very spiteful fan
Yeah,
base.
Bostonians.
Yeah. All right. The last game, Nick, this is the most college football game of all time. And here's what I mean by that. Kansas State just played on a Friday night, and they played Arizona, and they went and they won big against what like is a future conference opponent, but it wasn't a conference game, and it mattered a lot. But now you have to go into the Lavelle Edwards Stadium at a 10:30 Eastern kickoff and go play this BYU team that nobody talked up to start the year, and they're very quietly 3-0. And this line, Kansas State just blitzed Arizona. This is a 7-point spread. They should crush BYU. This is the most college football spot to lose a game of all time. I have to pick Kansas State for my narrative, for my mental health, for my sanity. But oh my God, is this going to be a dogfight?
Oh yeah. Give me BYU. I've everything.
Oh,
I have it written down already. I'm sure you saw it, but everything about it, you like exactly kind of what you just said. You look at it, it just speaks to you. It's like when you're seeing the board, right? BYU is going to win this game. They're going to win this game. And people are going to be like, "Whoa, what the hell? Like BYU's 4-0." They go, I don't necessarily know if they're that good. I don't think they are. I actually kind of hate their roster, but they're going to win this game. It's just how it works.
It's just college football. That would be the most college football thing, and I fucking love it. All right, that's it for this week. I think we hit on pretty much everything. South Alabama committed a war crime. We didn't talk about that, but that was hilarious.
Like 90%.
Put up 87-10. And they had a 6-minute running clock fourth quarter.
That's crazy.
in college football.
Wow.
Legitimately insane. But a hell of a week. I'm looking forward to this week. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe. Be a friend and tell a friend. That's the best way to help us grow the podcast. I know a handful of people have reached out about our beginning of the year episodes and have said good things. So, Nick, I'm looking forward to talking to you next week and watching a whole hell of a lot of football Saturday. We will see you in the next one.